A guy who runs with an anger, with a violence, with a will to gain as many yards as possible and really add something to the Kansas City offense, great balance to the passing game. He will be a big part of the offense. And he said yesterday when people say he runs like he's biting people, his quote was, "I ain't no zombie." So he at least we now know. We can take his word for it. He is not, in fact, a zombie, Peter.
You know, I kind of wish he were a zombie. You want to know why? I would really like to see a zombie play football in the NFL. It would be fun. It would bring a angle, a new bunch of fans. Mike, you know what would happen? There would have to be a section in the stadium of Joe Zombie. Okay, there'd have to be a section in that stadium where it would all be like zombies and whoever else worships the zombie. It would be great for the NFL. It's like Taylor Swift in 23. Hey, Zombie Nation come in 24. It's great. But, you know, Mike, I was going to tell you about Isiah Pacheco. So being around Kansas City quite a bit, poor segue, but being around Kansas City quite a bit this year, you know, this occurs to me. And I'm going to take you back in time to November 5th in Frankfurt, Germany. I think I said this on this show the following week, but on that day, I don't know if you remember, but on that day, on the field, I interviewed Mahomes for NBC, and we used a clip or two, I guess, in Football Night. I didn't see it, but we used it in Football Night.
How dare you?
And then,
how dare you not watch it?
Well, it's not on in Frankfurt. Sorry.
I know.
But anyway, so I go into the locker room. This little, you know, it's funny. The locker rooms in Germany, quite honestly, they're like locker rooms for a soccer team because that's who plays there. So not the biggest lockers, not the biggest rooms. So it's pretty crowded in there. But when the locker room was open, I made a beeline for Mahomes, and I just wanted to say, hey, thanks for hanging around and doing that with me after the game. And the first thing he said was, I can't believe you're here. And the second thing was, hey, listen, I meant what I said. We will get this offense right. I can promise you. I mean, we weren't on camera. I didn't have my notebook out. I mean, it's not like that's off the record or anything great, but I just remember the look in his eye. We will fix this. Because that day they only scored 14 points and won basically because of a defensive touchdown. So my only point is Patrick Mahomes has known the whole year, whatever it takes, we're going to do. And as we get to this point of the season, you know what it takes? Isiah Pacheco. That's what it takes. And Isiah Pacheco, I think I'm right in saying he's had 39 carries the last 2 weeks, far above his average per game this year. But I the only reason that I mention all of this is that Isiah Pacheco, Andy Reid, and Patrick Mahomes have something in common. Phil Simms once said to me, entering the 86th season, when I mentioned to him, like, man, your numbers went way down from throwing for 4,000 to throwing for whatever he did, 2,900. And he goes, Peter, I don't give a bleep about stats. And Patrick Mahomes doesn't give a bleep about stats either. I can tell you. And he only cares what is the right thing, what is the right piece of how do we use every person in this offense to the max. And right now, they are going to feature Isiah Pacheco. And look, they're going up against a really good run defense. Really good. But I guarantee you, Isiah Pacheco and his zombie running style, his angry running style, the Ravens are going to have to stop that on Sunday.
Isiah Pacheco has 75 or more yards from scrimmage in his 5 career playoff games. He can tie Walter Payton for the 4th longest streak in league history of 75-plus scrimmage yards in playoff games by a running back to begin a career on Sunday against the Ravens. And the reality with the Chiefs, and look, they finally got it figured out. As of Christmas Day, 1 month and 1 day ago, they looked horrible. It's almost like they were trying to will themselves into being the Chiefs of past years by doing the trick plays and the gadget stuff, and they got embarrassed at home by the Raiders on a day that they thought was going to be a celebration, not a defeat to a division rival that they are better than, or at least, man for man, player for player, talent for talent. They were better. They should have won that game. But it's all about getting it together at the right time. They didn't get it together soon enough to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, but they did get it together soon enough to win playoff games, to go to Buffalo and win. And that Mahomes mindset in the postseason, he's aware of his legacy. He's trying to catch Tom Brady. He's got a calm to him. They have a tremendous amount of playoff experience. Isiah Pacheco running harder than usual in the postseason. We see that. We see certain players elevate, and Chiefs have players who rise to the occasion. That's why they're a dangerous opponent for the Ravens this week, and that's why they'll be dangerous in the Super Bowl if they get there. They find a higher level of overall performance when it's time to play single elimination games. And we see it from Pacheco, who he has moments. He's a great player during the regular season, but in the postseason, he finds something more. There's a greater degree of want to. There's a greater ability to thrive under pressure-packed circumstances. Some teams will get stiff. Some teams will be too aware in a bad way. They're aware in a good way. They know this is their chance to go take it. And that's why it's hard to doubt the Chiefs in this setting, even though they are playing the best team in the league in their own building.
And I think the other part of this is, Mike, look, we have not talked about the games last week, but I have a very, very firm opinion, and I'm going to bring this around. I won't go on a diatribe, but I have a very firm opinion about the Kansas City Buffalo game, which I covered. And that opinion is this. If you're watching that game and saying that Josh Allen has a fatal flaw and he'll never win the big one and he'll never la-di-da-di-da, you just don't know what you're talking about. Go sit on the sidelines, please. Josh Allen played for 58 minutes, an absolutely marvelous game. Now, he made 2 throws at the end, that you said, shouldn't make those throws, especially at this moment. You need to move the chains. You need to move the clock. You need to do something to get a couple more first downs so that you could be at the 10-yard line and let Tyler Bass try to make this kick with 10 seconds to go, or try to win it in regulation. Either way, but don't leave Kansas City a minute 43 or whatever it is, they were going to leave him. Okay, so, but be that as it may, my whole point about this is Kansas City is not always, they weren't against Joe Burrow. And, there have been times where they haven't. Josh Allen's beaten Patrick Mahomes 3 times. But Kansas City usually is the team that is left standing. You know why? Because they don't make those big mistakes down the stretch. And that, to me, is something that if you're Baltimore this weekend, and if you're John Harbaugh, if you're Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, if you're Mike McDaniel, the defensive coordinator, you got to have it in your head. Don't be satisfied with anything in the last 2 minutes unless you got a 3-score lead at the 2-minute warning. Then you can start to be a little bit satisfied because they are going to do something. They're going to figure out some way, Kansas City, to have a chance at the end because of that coaching staff and because of that quarterback to be able to come back at the end of the game. I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying anything. But I trust Patrick Mahomes at the end of a game, unlike any other quarterback I've ever seen other than Tom Brady. So that is what I think the Baltimore Ravens really have to be careful of as they head into this sort of uncharted waters. As I wrote in my column the other day, Mike, the crazy thing about this football game is the Baltimore Ravens or that a Baltimore team will host the AFC Championship game this weekend for the first time since the first AFC Championship game in January of 1971, when, by the way, a quarterback from the University of Louisville, Johnny Unitas, brought Baltimore to the Super Bowl. Now, another quarterback from the University of Louisville is playing the first home championship game since then, attempting to take his team to the Super Bowl.
That's a good nugget. I like that. The Louisville connection between Unitas and Lamar Jackson. And, of course, the Colts would go on to win the Super Bowl that year thanks to Jim O'Brien, who wore number 88, kicking a game-winning field goal to deliver victory in Super Bowl V over the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Peter, I like what you said about the Bills down the stretch. I think that this is part of your opposition overall when you're facing the Chiefs in the playoffs. You can't let yourself get freaked out or second-guess who you are or what you do because you're afraid of Patrick Mahomes with the ball in his hands. And the Bills are the prime example of it because look what happens with 13 seconds left. They drive down the field and they get a field goal and they force overtime and then they beat you. My own theory is that in the final couple of minutes of the game, when there was 4 minutes left and the Bills were moving, they had a plan that they were going to do everything they could to milk the clock down to the very end, have a walk-off field goal or a touchdown with hardly any time left. And at the 2-minute warning, something flipped. It reminded me of when Tony Dungy spent 2 weeks saying, we can't kick to Devin Hester, we can't kick to Devin Hester. And then the night before he said, screw it, we're kicking to Devin Hester. And he returned it for a touchdown to start the game. I think on the sideline, they said, screw it, we're not going to reside in our fears. Let's go get a touchdown. Let's take the lead. Josh Allen throws it to the end zone. And if he hadn't been hit just before he let go of the ball, it might have been a touchdown. And then the Chiefs have the ball back. My point is, you can kind of sense they're allowing themselves to be distracted by this idea that the Chiefs are going to get you. When do you give the ball back to Mahomes? How much is too much? And I think at the 2-minute warning, they just said, screw it. Let's not play this game. Let's not try to engineer this. Let's just go do what we do, and let's trust our defense to maybe make a stop. But if you let that thinking get into your head, it just makes it harder to do what you need to do. And the Ravens need to not even think about that, not be fearful of it. It helps they have no playoff history with the Chiefs. The Bills' playoff history with the Chiefs hurt them on Sunday, I believe. The Ravens don't have one. That could be the difference in not getting yourself all twisted up in your own thoughts and in your own fears if you're getting yourself into a late-game situation where you otherwise would be obsessed over how much time you're allowing Patrick Mahomes to go back and beat you. The Ravens can say, we got a defense. We can make a stop. We're not worried about that. Let's just go win the game.
You know, Mike, I think you're positively, absolutely 100% right. And look, in the sort of mania of a post game where what I'm thinking about is, okay, I've got to talk to this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. You don't necessarily sit down and think about it a lot, okay? But I can just tell you this, that at the 2-minute warning of this game, I thought to myself, the Bills have Kansas City right where they want them. Remember, at the 2-minute warning, they're at the Kansas City 26-yard line. It's 2nd and 9. Kansas City's got 2 timeouts left. And you know that if the ball is downed inbounds, either on a run or a pass play, that Kansas City on the next 2 plays is going to use its timeouts. So I start to think to myself, okay, you got 2 plays to make 9 yards. And make your 9 yards, get a first down, and then do one of 2 things. Take a couple of safe shots, or just get yourself in position at the 10-yard line. Get yourself in position, and then basically tie the game and go to overtime. But don't do anything stupid here. And I don't think necessarily that what they did was stupid, but there was a line of demarcation, and they changed their plan. I don't know how. I don't know why. I don't know why. But instead of continuing to try to bleed the clock, he took 2 shots in the end zone. I mean, and again, And again, Josh Allen, I credit him massively for the first 58 minutes of this game for so many things that he did right and all that. I really do. But he has a couple of choices to make there. And he knows that, a check down sometimes is your best friend. And he knows that an intermediate pass to the tight end sometimes is your best friend. And I think he will think for a long time this offseason about the decisions that he made. And look, we're probably never going to know what exactly Joe Brady called in that specific case. And if his first option was, I think it was Shakir on one play in the end zone, and I forget who else it was. But he had 2 chances, and they just didn't make a first down. And I remember thinking to myself, why are they doing this? But then you get into the mania of the game and, the post-game nut house, and you don't really think about it. But I remember thinking that as it was happening.
Stephon Diggs running wide open, uncovered underneath. Throw him the ball on 2nd and 9. He could possibly get the first down there. But, I think what happened, Peter, we need to take a break, but I think this is an important conversation because we hear this all the time. Now, we heard it from Sean McDermott after the game as it related to the ridiculous decision, in my opinion, to do a fake punt when you just leave Josh Allen out on the field at 4th and 5. If you want to go for it on 4th and 5, don't do a fake punt. Let Josh Allen try to throw for it or run for it if all else fails. What McDermott said is, I was being aggressive. We hear that all the time now. I'm just being aggressive. Sometimes you need to be strategic, not aggressive. And it felt like they were being strategic as the clock ticked under 5 minutes down to 2. And then at the 2-minute warning, they decided, we just want to be aggressive. Sometimes the aggressive thing to do is to be strategic, to believe, to have the confidence that you can cat and mouse this thing down to the final few seconds and keep Patrick Mahomes from getting the ball back and engineer the outcome your way. You don't have to throw it to the end zone. Work your way down. Bleed the clock. Be strategic. That's aggressive in the setting. And I think they thought they weren't going to be able to pull it off. The hell with it. Let's just throw it to the end zone and let's trust our defense. And it blew up on them. And there was, I think, a dramatic sea change before and after the 2-minute warning. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.